For 39 years, I have been privileged to teach people like you, and thank you for being willing to be sucked in. I will miss people like you. And I can't say anything else, but I'm going to cry, which is okay. But I suppose if any of you want to say something, it'd be okay, but I'm holding the mic. I learned a long time ago, never give the mic away. But seriously, thank you all for coming, and I appreciate you, each and every one. So, thank you. The sucking noise, yes. When you go to the dentist, you know, they have those things they put in your ear. Then it gets stuck on your tongue. That one. What else?
You never did a story about your son and being colorblind?
Oh, yeah.
The lights? Oh, that's my father-in-law. My son. My father-in-law is colorblind and was colorblind, and he was seriously colorblind, black, white, gray. So you know when you're driving, when you go down these on the coastal highways and stuff, and you get to those little touristy towns. Well, most stoplights are like this, but in touristy towns they turn them, and he honestly could not tell, and so he didn't know if they were red, yellow, green, or red, yellow, green, and so whenever he came to a sideways stoplight, he stopped. But it didn't make any difference which one was lit up. And then if people honked, he knew that was green. And if they didn't honk, he knew that was red. But Doug, because of the way genetics works, had a 50-50 chance of being colorblind. And we didn't know he was colorblind until he was in kindergarten. Now, Doug is one of those kids that you never had to ask, how was your day? Okay. You'd go to pick him up, the door would open. As the door closed, it was a verbal hemorrhage. And one day I was taking him home from school, and he's talking a mile a minute, and all of a sudden the back seat goes silent. And I look in the rearview mirror. Doug, you okay? There's this quizzical look, and he said, yeah? So what's the matter? I forgot what I was saying. Because he just talked. It didn't make any difference. And anyway, so when Doug was growing up, He-Man was the cartoon of choice. Now, He-Man was human colored, but Skeletor had a clone of He-Man that was green. Some of you know. Okay. So Doug comes home from kindergarten one day, and he's just in tears. Now, when I would come home from school, when Doug was playing around in the neighborhood, I knew where he was because I could hear. Doug was always in charge, making rules. Okay. And Doug has a really good memory. He once read an entire Shakespeare play in 90 minutes, sitting there just reading it. And I had actually read the play, and I asked him questions, and he actually read the play in 90 minutes and knew stuff. So he really remembered stuff. So he would read the rules of games. And then, when you played him, you only got the rules you needed until it was to his advantage. Okay? So Doug liked making rules, and he was loud, and he could hear them all. So anyway, so he comes home, and he is distressed. And he goes storming into his bedroom. We're not saying anything. Comes back out, and he's holding 2 crayons. Okay? Flesh-colored, and green. And he says, which one is He-Man? Because what had happened at school, he had colored He-Man green, the clone color. And his buddies just laid into him. And so one of the first learns Doug Downing learned to read was green. Because he would never, seriously, the rest of his life in school, he would never use a crayon that didn't have a label. Because he would, that's how he knew his colors. So, not very funny, but it is true. Yes. Oh, John? Oh, yeah. I played football. When I started out as a sophomore. I was the number 4 linebacker in a 2 linebacker system. And early in the first quarter, one of the starting linebackers got hurt. He was out for the season. And so I became the number 3 linebacker. Before the end of the first quarter, the other starting linebacker got hurt, and I became a starter. Okay. So I'm a sophomore, I'm a starter. John, the other linebacker, really smart guy. He's a doctor, was this junior class president, senior class president, really nice guy. As soon as he put his football helmet on and snapped the chin strap, his brain turned off. He went from smart to reptile. Okay. And John could not talk on the football field, literally could not enunciate words. Now, I told you how good our football team was. Our defense had 2 calls. It was regular or goal line. That's it. And then if we did regular, the linebacker in charge had to say rat if you wanted the lineman to go to the right, or lion if you wanted to go. That's our whole defense, okay? And so what John's job was, because he was the junior, I was the sophomore, John's job was in the huddle to say regular, ready, break, and clap his hands. And then when everybody got out, he was supposed to say rat or lion. That's his whole job. So I'm in there for my first play, and everybody's waiting. And there's nothing. For example, John, what do we do? Oh! The other team comes out, lines up. So, of course, the coach takes me out because I'm the last one on. And he says, I send you in the game, the whole thing falls apart. I said, Coach, we can't understand John. What do you mean you can't understand? He can't talk. Get back in there and send him out. So I get back in there. John, go out. So John goes out, and I called the play. And, regular, ready, break. Wasn't hard. And so they send John back in with the defensive back because John can't talk. And the defensive back says, Coach says John can't talk. You call the defense. And so I went from 4th string linebacker to starting linebacker, defensive signal caller, because John can't talk. John also didn't have much of a sense of humor with his football helmet on. The coach, our linebacker coach, his brother coached for the Chargers. So he would come in once a week with some new technique the Chargers had. And it was usually some bogus thing he'd made up. And so we all knew, ha ha ha, Coach, that's really funny. John would always go, oh! And so he comes this one time and he says, the Chargers have a new technique to find out if a running back is faking carrying the ball. Because when you fake carrying the ball, you bend over like this and they can't see you. So he said, it's called the karate. And he said, you take your hand and you hit him right here like this. And then their head comes up and you can see. No, bro, yeah, Coach, right. Okay. See, what do football players wear? Helmet. Okay. Hard, plastic helmet. And then they have that other thing here called a face guard. Okay, there's about this much space. You got about 100% chance of smacking the helmet or the face guard and breaking your hand. Okay, so this is, ha ha ha, Coach, really funny. Well, we only had, there was 19 players on my varsity football team. And so we couldn't even have 11-on-11 scrimmage. So we did what they call half-line scrimmage, center, guard, tackle, tight end. And so I was running offense while John was playing defense, and then he would come over and run offense when I played defense. But the first play we call in this half-line scrimmage, after this little exhibition of the karate, is one of the favorite plays the other team ran, which was a fake to the fullback, and then throw a pass out and that over there in the flat. So I have been hammered by coaches about not faking. Didn't carry the fake out. So man, I am faking. And all of a sudden, boom! My head goes up. Oh! John goes out to cover the flat. I'm sitting on the ground. Tears are streaming down my face. I can't see. I can't breathe, And I get up and I go back to the huddle. And they have to take me back to the huddle because so John actually thought it worked. And even though I didn't, I found out I was 60. That was 1966. In 1976, my wife went to the nose doctor because she had nose polyps. Told the nose doctor that I had used nose spray, and he said, "When did your husband break his nose?" He said, "I don't think he ever has." So I go to the doctor, and I'm sitting there, and he comes in. He said, "When did you break your nose?" And I said, "I never broke my nose." He said, "Yeah, right." And he says, "Your nose cartilage," said, "it's all bent." He said, "That's why you have to use nasal spray because it swells up." And so I said, "We'll fix that." So I never broke my nose. I mean, my nose looked just like this. It wasn't like, it was good. And so they went in and they cut it out. But what they were supposed to do was shave it off. But they found out that when they got in there, instead of being just bent, it actually made it S-shaped. So they had to lift up the nasal membrane and cut it out. And then they put it on an anvil and smashed it flat. Then they put it back in and laid the membrane back down. Then they stuffed my nose with 2-inch gauze pads covered with Vaseline. That was fine until it was time. The day was time to go home. Then they have to take the gauze pads out, and if it starts to bleed, you have to stay in the hospital. And so this is hard to do holding this mic. Come over here. Stand over there. Don't be in the way. You're a mic stand. Good. There we go. Now, so the doctor comes. He's holding a bedpan right here, and he's got a pair of tongs, and he starts pulling one out of this side, and when it comes out, it's covered with Vaseline, but it's been in there for like 3 or 4 days, and so it's kind of stuck. So as soon as he pulls it, I have to sneeze. But if I sneeze, so I can't sneeze. But fortunately, he pulls it and pulls it and pull and pull and pull and pull and pull, and so I'm. Thank you. And so they let me go home, and I go home, and I'm. You've ever been in the hospital? You don't rest in the hospital. They keep poking you and stuff. And so I go and I lay down on my bed, and we had this little dog, Chihuahua Sheltie mix. And he comes flying in, Dad's home, and leaps up on the bed and leaps on my chest and licks me in the neck. And I'm and the dog goes flying and hits the wall, and he's laying and he was fine. But I get up and I go over to wash my face because the dog has licked my nose, and I totally forgot. Okay, so I water and I go, and next thing I know, I'm sitting on the ground. It's 1966 all over again. I've got tears streaming down my face. I have no idea. But anyway, okay. Anything else? Okay. Pablo, I let Pablo go in my pond, and. Pablo's my frog, and Pablo's the dumbest amphibian in history of amphibians. I let him go in my pond, and he died a free frog. So I haven't seen him since then. Maybe he's still alive. Bailey thought he was dead every day anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, that's it. Time to go. Thank you.